In August 2014, our unemployment rate reached 10.8%. Our unemployment has been at its highest since 2008. If the state and society will support our local companies, there will not be any unnecessary personnel reduction. It is said that if each of us buys local production only 10% more, we will save more than 20,000 workplaces. This means that more than 1% of employees will keep their jobs. The opportunity cost of unemployment is immense when considering the scale of Latvia's economy. When workers are unemployed, they are unable to produce output. And if we reduce personnel, we decrease the productivity of our companies. I want to point out that unemployment is bad because of its psychological effects on individuals, families and communities. According to the American Psychological Association, unemployed individuals are twice as likely as individuals who are employed to suffer from depression, anxiety, psychosomatic symptoms, low sense of well-being, and poor self-esteem. According to this, if we support our local producers and stabilize Latvia's unemployment rate, we will provide not only our economical development, but social development as well. And our second argument is support leads to economical stability. If we support our local producers, the money will stay with us in our country and help our economy to develop, not foreign countries. As a matter of fact, if we buy our local products, we keep for about twice more money in Latvia than we would keep if we would buy foreign products. That means those purchases are twice as efficient in terms of keeping the local economy stable and developed. If we support our own producers and our own companies, the money and resources comes into Latvia's budget and enlarges incomes of our employees and increases productivity levels, what leads to higher GDP rate. The gross domestic product is perhaps the most widely used indicator of economic growth and well-being. How to mention the GDP is the reflection of economic development. If GDP grows, the economic development grows as well. Also, higher GDP means that welfareness of our society increases. It is quite obvious that countries with a higher GDP than others have much better quality of life across the globe. Countries with first world GDP levels have better medicine, more food, longer lives, better education, more entertainment, etc. As a matter of fact, so support of our producers will obviously stabilize and even increase our economy. And our third argument is support of local producers promotes export. By helping our local producers to develop themselves and increase their production, we allow them to firstly increase and stabilize their budget and production levels. Afterwards, when the production rates are stable, they will be able to increase export to other foreign countries and become a big part of abroad trade. If our companies will export Latvian production to foreign countries, we will get more money to our budget, and this will increase Latvia's economy. When we will become a big part of abroad trade, our exports will be the key to development of abroad bonds, creating this suitable and beneficial trading. Also, abroad trading bonds will help to create a negotiable trading between imported and exporters, making negotiations to be beneficial for everyone. So both the government and the society has to help and support our local producers, so we could strengthen our unity as a nation and strengthen our bonds as a part of the international trade. We have to work harder to make our country, Latvia, a better place to live.
Rita, in your first argument, you mentioned that support would stabilize unemployment rate. Can you give me a mechanism, an example where this has worked already? Can you give me a mechanism how exactly this support will work?
How support will stabilize unemployment rate? We support these companies, and they.
Well, how is this support going to happen?
I'm explaining. We are increasing the vacancies in these companies, and so people have more places to live. And
are you going to just tell companies create more spaces, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know what structural unemployment is? Unemployment. Do you have a definition?
No.
Okay. So in the second argument, you said that support is going to give us economical stability. Again, can you name a mechanism, an example? Where has this worked?
As I said in my argument, if we support our local producers, the money will stay with us in our country and help our economy to develop, not foreign countries.
And where did you get this information? What are you basing this on?
Trade.gov.
And okay, thank you. And is there how this correlation between GDP and social growth works? Give me a proof.
Can you paraphrase or?
Okay. Correlation between GDP and social growth. Give me an example.
I don't know this kind of information.
Okay. And can you please define society support?
Support from society.
Yeah.
When society buys things that are local.
Okay.
And the money flows into our local trade and circulates.
And how are we going to promote export? Again, a mechanism.
Export. By helping our local producers to develop.
How are we going to help the local producers? Give me a mechanism. How are we going to help? Define this support.
The support, like from society or the government.
For your third argument, which is promoting export, how are you going to promote export?
We are going to give some support. Firstly,
what support? What is your mechanism?
I already said okay. We are going to, like, the society is going to buy local products, and the money will go into those companies. And
why is the society going to buy local products? How are you going to do that? Okay.
I'm and the first speaker of the negative team, and I'm clearly saying that the affirmative team kind of said that you're going to give support, but what will be the support? The society can buy the products, yes, but can all the society buy the products? Won't it make a bigger rift between the capable society who has good job, good money, and good incomes? But what we're going to do about that? Most of the society who doesn't have so much money. But by the support, it still is some kind of giving of money, even if they want to support the unemployment and increase the vacancies, as our teammate asked me questions, how they're going to support the lowerment of unemployment in the country. How much the GDP will actually rise if we only buy the local products? It will rise to a certain point, yes, but how we're going to do it in the future? Because this money we're going to just go around and around, but what we're going to give it in the future and so on. And they were talking about supporting the local export, exporting local produce to the outside, and they were talking about mysterious negotiations with countries and so on. But are there any evidence that we are doing it now? They're talking about the future, only a future and a future. They're not telling a mechanism clearly how it's going to work and so on. So that they even didn't know what is structural unemployment. It is an employment that is made by making new job spaces where there aren't people who are professionally, who doesn't have the profession to work in that place, and makes a part where there's like lots of architects, but there's no lawyers. And then we make lots of places where to make the lawyers to work, but then there's the big rift that we're going to put the architects. So it's the structural unemployment. So now to our case. As we understood, they want to support the local producers, but also by the countries and the country's needs. And so we understand the only way how the country can do is subsidizing the local producers in some kind of way. And now we shouldn't risk with what we already have. We have the stable development of economy and society. We shouldn't risk about that, about losing it by giving some kind of money and making the people buy something they can't afford. So the first thing about, I would say, is that free trade policies and international trade markets in which structural governments do not restrict imports and exports. Free trade is exemplified by European Union, European Economic Area, and North American Free Trade Agreement, which is established open markets. So our first argument is that the importance of free market and opportunity cost. Quoting Harvard's economic professor N. Georgia McKinley, few propositions command such a conscious among professional economists as that open world trade increases economic growth and rising living standards. The advantages of free trade is increased production efficiencies, benefits to consumers, and foreign exchange gains, unemployment rate lowering, and economical growth. And this is taken from the www.hhsc.csu.edu. And so we can clearly state that we shouldn't actually do nothing. We should just let the economy go as by as how it goes. We have a stable economical growth that is increasing by 2% each year from the 2008 and now from 2009 to 2004. We have stable growth to the market in Russia. We have stable connections now with Turkey, and we are talking about with Kazakhstan about the trade routes to China. So the subsidies. So we can continue about ideal government. Okay, I don't have so much time. I'm going to go to a support for local producers. Second item, support to local producers creates disbalance in this cash distribution. There is this inequality of income in Latvia. While the Latvian authorities like to tell the world of success stories of Latvia growing over the crisis and so on. But the number of people from 2005 of unemployment has increased to 158%. Economics associate Valsts estimated that 90% of average incomes per family is only 500 lakhs, while the 1% wealthy families spend 7 times more, 3,000 lakhs per month. So it's from wealthy to wealthy. And inequality distribution to funds and regions is describing the economic growth trends in the region's larger domestic perspective. Profitability is Riga region. So you can see that Riga has the biggest income in trades and so on, and we still invest in those regions where there is a higher employment and so on. But we don't invest in regions where there are not workplaces where there are unemployment. We don't invest in regions like Liepājas region so much. We don't invest in Latvijas region, Daugavpils, and Rīznieka and all other regions. And we can go on about the ideal government would strive to structure expenditures to achieve returns to society that are roughly similar to each dollar spent. So the subsidies can easily upset that balance. So we can see that there is, I'm going to continue one sentence, the availability of credit due to foreign capital inflow to the overheating Latvian economy distributes with increased domestic demand, thus causing the private growth of consumption. The imports increase. This led to excessive prolonged payment deficit in current account balances. Thank you. That will be all.
Can you repeat the second argument, please?
Second argument is support to local producers creates a disbalance in cash distribution.
Okay, thank you. First question: is there unemployment?
Of course there is.
Can you state like the statistics? How much is it
Right now?
Yeah.
11%.
Okay.
And it's a structural unemployment.
Okay. Is unemployment bad?
At certain points, yes, but sometimes it's not, because it's from the markets and so on, about the structural market that we have workplaces that we don't have the professionals to work in it, and there's some kind of timeline between how fast we can make new professionals in that way. Yeah.
So do you have any statistics for these facts which you just stated?
About which facts?
Being unemployed or the employees that actually work for the company?
We have taken the statistics from with.gov.lv, and we have some other information.
Okay, next question. So, how do you quantify the unemployment?
Unemployment?
Yeah.
The unemployment is a normal showcase in free trade economics. As I told you, the structural unemployment.
Okay, thank you. Source for people that can afford local products. Do you have any statistics that?
How much?
No, I mean, do you have any statistics that local people can't afford local products?
Can't afford?
Yeah.
I can clearly say that I can't clearly say that there is so much people that can't buy, but there are people who are problematic economical status.
Does export bring money?
Of course it does.
So, do only professional employees impact the economical growth? You said only we need the professionals to make economy grow.
I didn't say that. I said that you have to make jobs in specific professions to have good economic development. So.
Okay, next question. Can you define the difference in service and product?
Service and product?
Yeah.
One is when you make a real product, other is like giving almost like a massage or giving something that's not actually.
Okay. Does government own any companies?
What?
Does government own any companies?
Of course it does.
Thank you. Is there embargo from Russia in Latvia?
Yes. If you want some information, I can give you about it.
Hello, dear audience, dear judges, dear opponents. I'm the second speaker of the affirmative team, and I would like to start with our team's resolution, which is that support from the state and society will promote Latvia's economical and social development. And I would like to start pointing out little things which our opponents did. They mentioned that we are speaking about subsidies, but we didn't mention this word. So they are making up things to make us in uncomfortable situations. So it doesn't show anything good for us, for them. So, and now I would like to start with the refuting part. Their first argument was about free market. But I would like to mention that free market exists only on paper, as we know. Because as in the cross-examination part, we asked people a question, does Latvia's government owns a company? You answered yes. So it means that Latvia is interrupting these companies, these private companies. And Baltic was a private company. And government bought these parts from it. So it goes on that government is impacting the market. And yeah. And we asked a question, does export brings money? And they said yes. And it's good, because they were telling us that export doesn't bring such money, so where are we going to get that money? But if these companies get support from the country, they can develop their things here, just grow up, and then they just can export their things in the European Union. And then they grow and we gain the money from the exported goods, which increase the GDP. Thank you. And now I would like to strengthen our team's case. So they were asking us a mechanism how we're going to give support. Our team is giving this idea about lowering the taxes. It isn't a financial aid, but it's a small support which Latvia is implementing even now. As you know, the micro companies, they have smaller income tax, which is 9%. And this is support, and this shows it is working, because we are making new innovation fields. So, about our team's second argument, which was about economical stability, here I would like to add that the money which is invested here in the companies is often invested in development. We could take, for example, the company Rudens. It's placed in Latvia, thank you. Its revenue is quite big, 38 million euros. And they invest 9% in development. In development, it makes new medicine, new workplaces, and the unemployment rate, it's lower. And these companies, which just bring their money in development, lowers the unemployment rates and supports the GDP of Latvia. Because the Green Index is exporting medicine all over the world. And the medicine is bought all over the world, and the money flows back to the land. And about our team's third argument, which was about export, I was already talking about it a little bit in my second argument, which was about the same Green Index thing. They're exporting everything. But if these companies gain support from the society and the state, thank you, then, as we see, these companies just develop new places, they develop new products, and these products can go overseas, and this improves export. So we are gaining much more money from these countries where we are exporting these things. And based on year 2013, we imported goods which price was $16 billion and only exported $12 billion worth of goods. So our export is smaller than import, which is pretty bad because for developed countries it's in the same level. And our team still strongly believes that support from the state and society will promote Latvia's social and economical development. Thank you, and ready for this explanation.
But what is the country's support?
Oh, it shows that you didn't listen to me. I explained the mechanism about the law. Not about the law, but about the taxes. The country is lowering the taxes for these companies, and they can just pay more, not more, but less money in the taxes. So the money can be invested in development and make new workplaces to work.
And where are we going to get the money for the education?
For education? Because, why? Okay, but for education, we are exporting these things when you get these countries on.
Yeah, but we are lowering
these companies, so we get back. And the micro tax is affected only when the revenue goes up to 3,000 euros.
Okay, but what will happen if you lower the taxes? Yes, we're going to lower the taxes, you say. But you say that they invest the money in development. But what will happen? How much money they will gonna actually pay to their country, and how much they're gonna just take on for themselves?
There is such a graph as the Lorentz graph. It shows how much income from the tax is taken if the tax is high and if the tax is low.
Yeah.
If the tax is high, it almost is the same income as the tax would be low, because then it shows up shadow economy, which brings no taxes to the country. So the high taxes not often means profit.
Okay. Does the Green Index have support from the country?
The Green Index? Yeah. It has support from the country.
What kind of support?
It has support for lower taxes for chemicals.
Okay. Where did you get the date for the GDP?
GDP?
Yep.
It was data from Eurobarometer, 2013.
Okay. Where are we going to get the people who work if you say that you're going to, for specific sectors, you're going to lower the tax rate? Where are you going to get the people who work?
We didn't mention such a term as structural unemployment. We mentioned only unemployment. So there are unemployed people. And yeah, unemployment people will often search a job, even if it's just janitor. You can work in the medical sector.
But what about Metalworks when you lost 5,000 working people who lost their jobs? 5,000 people.
Or 4,000 people.
Yeah, there's like 5,000 people who almost a bit less. They're just going around. That's it.
Okay, so first I will start with some refutation, and then I will go deeper into our case, explaining why exactly we should stay with the free market principles and why this creates a disbalance in the cash distribution. So first of all, the first argument was about that support would stabilize unemployment rate. So first of all, they could not give me an example as to how this would work, and as to even if it would work, they could not give me any proof. You see, they could not give me any mechanism and any proof. And even if they could, they are talking about unemployment rate. And my partner already explained that even if this support does do some good, it would create some new workspaces, but because structural unemployment, it really would not decrease this unemployment rate that much because of structural unemployment. And also their second argument was about giving support to gain economical stability. First of all, again, no proof. Second of all, they said that free market basically exists only on paper, and they were basing this on the fact that my partner mentioned that our country owns a company. Well, okay, they could own a company, but that doesn't mean that the country is subsidizing or lowering taxes or giving any other support to this company. It is simply owned by it. That means that all the profits go to the country. And also, their third argument was that it promotes expert and social growth. Social growth being people are less depressed. Well, that is great, but that really doesn't give us smaller inequality rates or new hospitals or anything like that, so that really can't be taken as social development just because some people might be happier because they find a job. And even if they do find a job, well, how can they be sure they are educated? Oh, this is funny. When I asked in the cross-examination if there is a correlation between GDP and social growth, they said that there isn't one. And in their arguments, they said that the social growth would depend on GDP growth. And that's kind of contradicting themselves. And also, when they said that GreenX, that is this amazing company that brings lots of profits to Latvia, gained the support by lowering tax, this is simply to throw off just by mentioning Liepājas Metallurgs, which gained support in the size of 120 million. I can also say how it gained the support, and it was a major risk, and we lost a lot of money because of this risk. And this was by, okay, so I will move on to my arguments. And I will move on to my arguments, again repeating why free market and opportunity cost is so important, and then go on to say again why this will be create a disbalance in the cash distribution. So I will speak about opportunity cost because my partner already spoke about free market. Opportunity cost, as the Oxford American Dictionary defines it, is the loss of potential gain from other alternatives when one alternative is chosen. This means that ideally a government would strive to structure its expenditures so as to achieve a return to society that is roughly similar for each dollar spent. Support can easily upset that balance. That means if we put, I don't know, some investment into these companies, that is a risky one because we don't know if we could get it back, we are not able to put it in social growth and development. That means that would be the same as if the conception of opportunity cost is reasonably intuitive. As at the household level, if a person spends $100 on a night out in the town, that $100 cannot be spent on food and other necessary things. And I will go on to my second argument, which is the disbalance in the distribution. And again, I would like to just read out these things about Liepājas Metallurgs, which is the government is carelessly throwing money around without analyzing the consequences, which can happen if we just give this support and lower these tax rates without really thinking about what would happen, because they did not give us any proof of what would happen. And this is, for example, Liepājas Metallurgs asked for the government help in the size of 60 million lats. They asked for the government to dismiss the electricity bills, grant new guarantees, as well as pay back the companies. And again, the LM also omits privileges already received from the government. For example, 22 million was covered by all Latvian electricity consumers. That means that this is also kind of lowering the tax. And what happened? We lost so much money that could easily be spent in I don't know, building schools or hospitals, which is social growth. Thank you.
Hello again, and I have several questions. Do you have a free market definition?
Yes, actually I do. Free trade is also known as free market, is a policy in international markets which governments do not restrict or where governments do not restrict the imports or exports. Free trade is exemplified by European Union, European Union economical area.
Did government support Liepājas networks?
Yeah, I did.
Where is the free market then?
Exactly, that's what happens when we lose the free market principles.
But you said that we have free market all the way. So where's the free
No,
market?
we did not say that we have free market all the way.
Where is the free market at the point when the government gives money to Liepājas networks?
As I said, we need to. No, as I said, we need to embrace free market, and this is what happens when we don't.
What is more important, welfare of people or profit?
I don't have information on this.
Okay. Are investments good?
They're risky. They are really risky. So therefore, you cannot know if they are good or if they're not.
Okay. Is all kinds of employment structural employment?
No, and my partner already explained that.
So we have, so there is a spot where we don't have structural.
Do you need a definition on structural unemployment?
No, we already. Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Thanks.
Hello, the audience, judges, opponents. I'm the third speaker of opponents team, and I would like to start speaking about free trade market. As our member of the team stated, there is no free market. It's only on a paper. So therefore, we can just say that imports and exports should be stabilized, but there shouldn't be government impact. But it's just support that we can provide to them. Therefore, as one of my team members stated that taxes can play a big role in the economy and the growth of our development. Therefore, the exported products can actually gain more as we provide them to other countries. So we have this bond with foreign countries as well as we provide our products for them. Therefore, we earn more. It's just beneficial for us and for them. There was a negativity mentioned that government can own businesses, but let's be realistic. Not every single cent is going to stay in the budget. Therefore, there's going to be people who want to earn more. So they're going to leave some money in their pockets. So basically, it's shadow economies there. As we know and have experienced, there is what the development in our state. Also, mentioning that negative team really put pressure on these subsidies that we actually haven't mentioned a single word about them. So clearly, we can come to the conclusion that support can vary in many ways, morally or providing some material support, like for farmers, lower the rents, or providing some other material useful needs for them. Talking about exports, we need the products and the services to be stabilized in our state. So therefore, it's not only based on the professionals. We need the workers. So that we can just promote the farmers to actually compete, our farmers to compete with foreign country farmers. This is the key to actually our companies to actually grow and potentially win the competition between their products and foreign products. Also, talking about this support, we need to actually look forward supporting the companies that are already in a really good position of actually being successful. Therefore, we can just come up with a good plan, so we can actually provide the necessary products that we already have in our country, that we are actually keeping, and the imports that are coming in, so we can actually fight against them. There was a mention that the risks supporting our companies. The risk is the biggest part of the successful in businesses. If you don't take risk, what's the point actually trying? So basically, entrepreneurs are the main things why they actually do business. It's the risk. They risk to lose everything or win everything. That's the main thing that we are focusing here. Let's talk about unemployment. Unemployment is natural, but every single government has to face it. They can fight it, as well as providing the society the better living of life. So therefore, we can just say that we are actually going to be united. If you actually bring the jobs, as Nick's team said, okay, we're going to just make more places for people. Well, yes, it will actually work because it will decrease the employment. This means that in the future we actually will have more and more places for people to work. So this means GDP will actually grow. Therefore, as well as talking about GDP and social life, social development, more. We can come to the conclusion that clearly GDP will grow, we'll have a better life and better suitable life for us to live in. As we will have more wages, bigger wages, and it's going to be beneficial for everyone. And last thing I would like to mention is there was a lot of investments in metal, but wasn't it the biggest exporter for our country? It was actually the stable income for our country. It just kept us going. Okay, thank you. I'll just quickly finish. Yes, the metal was the biggest exporter, and we actually lost it, but it's still going right now, as there was actually investments that actually supported it, and it's still going. And the last thing I would say that we still strongly support our resolution support of the state and society will promote Latvia's and social and economic development. Thank you.
Okay, so I will start with the clashes and then I will make known some mistakes that they made during their case. So the first clash was about employment, whether unemployment rates will increase or will it change at all, and will it be in any way influential. So in their first argument they mentioned that support would stabilize unemployment rate, which at this point is 11%. And we said that and they would do that by creating new job spaces. And we said that currently there is this thing that is called structural unemployment, which basically means that we would have 300 job places for engineers, but we have like 600 lawyers, and lawyers are not qualified to work as engineers. So this basically means that even if we do create these job spaces, if there aren't educated people, they cannot use these job spaces. That means that even if this support would create more employment places, that would not necessarily mean that unemployment would drop by that much. And the second clash point was that countries' support, is it really worth it? And one of the funny things that I heard was that risk is the biggest successor in business. You either win it all or lose it all. Well, we agree that risk could be the biggest successor in business, but we are talking about countries' economical situation, and countries simply cannot risk its funds on something that they could easily be just as keen to lose or keen to win. This means that the government has to think about all these risks, evaluate if it's worth it. And we believe that our system is somewhat stable. It's stable enough and it's growing slowly, 2% each year. And we should not risk it if it's not necessary. And right now it isn't, because we are still developing, even if we are not supporting these companies. And again, what they mentioned in the support meant that they would do that by lowering tax. And they said that the Green Next tax was so successful. Okay, but this is the successful part. We presented you with a case where Liepājas Metalurgs wasn't that successful. And they said, and the opponents mentioned that, okay, well, we did support Liepājas Metalurgs, but they did give us some advantages back. That isn't necessarily true, because once we we dismissed the electricity bills, paid for them. Then we pulled in some new equipment, and then we kept going and putting in more of millions of euros. And we simply did not get to the point where we could get the money back. And the whole point of our case is is the opportunity cost and the importance of free market and the disbalance that creates it if we ignore it. That means that ideally we would want to get back each euro spent, the same amount we would want to get back, and this risk simply doesn't allow this. And again, I would like to point out the contradiction that they made in the first speech and the third speech and the second speech. They mentioned that there is a correlation between GDP and social growth, because if the GDP grows, somehow people would get happier. But in the cross-examination for the first speaker, she actually stated that there is no correlation. And that is interesting considering their case. And the other thing that I would like to point out is they presented us with these beautiful arguments that do make some interesting points, and we agree that they are great, but the biggest problem with them is that there is no proof, there is no examples, and there is basically no guarantees that this would work. Even if it would work, there are still faults at it, but there isn't a guarantee that it could work, because they could not present us a country where this has already been made, or they could not present us with statistics. And that is the biggest problem. And we still strongly believe that we should not support local producers. And thank you very much.
Es šoreiz sākšu tomēr ar pirmo vietu. Bet es lūgtu nostāties tā skaisti un nekur nemūt prom. Es gribu pateikt liels paldies 15. vidusskolas komandai, kura šajā turnīrā ir ieguvusi pirmo vietu. Paldies, jo manuprāt tomēr diviem izspēlēt 3 nav nemaz tik viegli. Un tomēr pati spēles būtība jau ir veidota tā, ka šajā spēlē ir 3 cilvēki. Liels paldies Renātei Rozentālai!